LeBron James changed the league forever, and it might have been for the worst. Hey guys, Emmanuel here, and before I jump into this video, I just want to ask you guys to give me the HBO special, and that is the Help a Brother Out. And you can do that by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a like underneath this video. I'd really appreciate it, but I'm not one for long intro, so let's jump back into this story. The NBA is a completely different league than it was 13 years ago when LeBron James decided to take his talents to South Beach. And at the time, LeBron may have not noticed, but that would go on to be one of the most significant things that he's ever done in this league. And some of those changes have been good, but in my opinion, I think they've made things worse for the NBA. And players are going to find this out in the next collective bargaining agreement. Let me explain. Ever since LeBron James made it a norm for players to have agency over where they want to play, the league has de-evolved into a worse state, into something that the fans aren't liking and the owners aren't liking. And I put the blame on LeBron James because the league goes where LeBron goes. That's the power that comes with being LeBron James, being the best player in the NBA for the past 15 years, the face of the NBA. LeBron sets the standard for the league. And although, in my opinion, LeBron was justified in making his move to go to Miami, it still doesn't absolve him of the blame of how the league is right now. Let's take the case of Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, for instance. All three of these players are some of the best players in the NBA and some of the biggest stars the NBA has to offer. But they all have something in common. They feel they have no obligation to their word due to the normalcy of player mobility ushered in by LeBron James when he went to Miami. Kyrie Irving, for instance, signs a contract and has no intentions of fulfilling that contract. He did this in Cleveland. When Kyrie Irving signed an extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers, everything looked peachy for him. He'd won a championship with LeBron James and arguably could have won more if he had stayed. But when things got chippy, when his ego got too big and he wanted to have the same powers as LeBron did, and rightfully so, the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't give him, what did he do? He forced himself out of Cleveland and went to Boston. Now, he loved Boston. Everything was supposed to work out for him in Boston. He was supposed to be the leader of this new young group of guys that could someday win the championship. But when things got chippy, right? When it didn't work out in his favor, when the Boston Celtics didn't roll over and let him walk all over them, what did Kyrie Irving do? He forced his way out of Boston into Brooklyn. Recently, what just happened with Kyrie Irving? Kyrie Irving's on Dallas Mavericks. What happened? Things didn't work out with the Brooklyn Nets, but he was still under contract. What did he do? Forced his way out of Brooklyn to Dallas. Same thing with James Harden. James Harden signed one of the richest contracts that a player has ever signed in the NBA with the Houston Rockets. And during his tenure with the Houston Rockets, the Rockets as an organization have done everything to back and support James Harden. From the minute they traded for James Harden all the way back in 2013, they've done their very best to surround James Harden with as much talent as possible in order for him to succeed. They signed Dwight Howard when Dwight Howard was still good. They signed Chris Paul. They signed Russell Westbrook, and they didn't work out. James Harden fell short with all those guys. And when things weren't working out for him, when he wasn't feeling it anymore, what did he do? He forced his way out of Houston by what? Wearing a fat suit. The way that James Harden left the Houston Rockets was so unprofessional. He went to the Brooklyn Nets. Where are the Brooklyn Nets? It was a crockpot of guys who were unstable, unprofessional, in Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant. And when the boat started to rock a little bit, what did James Harden do? Right away, left and went to the Philadelphia 76ers. Same thing with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was in Golden State with Stephen Curry and was arguably the best position in terms of basketball. He was on one of the best teams ever in NBA history, right? Had won 2 championships, but when things got chippy between him and Draymond Green, what does he do? He asked for a trade, forced himself out of Golden State. He was signed and traded to the Brooklyn Nets for D'Angelo Russell and a few picks. And then, recently, as soon as Kyrie Irving rocked the boat and he left, what did Kevin Durant do? Kevin Durant immediately asked for a trade. Immediately. And got shipped off to Phoenix. So players aren't respecting their contracts anymore. they're signing their contract with the intentions of, if things get chippy, if I don't like anything, I'm gone. As soon as things get hard, they force their way out of the team that they're currently on. And it sucks for the fans when a player like Kyrie Irving gets up in front of the Boston Celtics crowd with a mic and he's courting them and he says, I would like to sign here and I'd like to be here if you guys would have me. Then a few months later, he's dashing off to the Brooklyn Nets.
Some of my teammates, as well as the organization and everyone else in Boston, you guys are having me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
But this is going to come back and bite the players in the butt because it also sucks for the owners and they've noticed it. And they're going to bring it up in the next collective bargaining agreement along with load management. They're going to say players are not being professional, they're signing contracts and are not fulfilling them. At the same time, they're sitting out games and they're making the league worse for the fans and worse for us. So they're going to try and push for players to get less money in future contracts because they have a legitimate case. Why should players get paid an exorbitant amount of money when they're playing less games than they used to? They're not even playing a certain amount of games, right? They're not playing full seasons anymore. That's a rarity. And they're just not fulfilling their contract. It's like the contract doesn't exist to them. How is it fair for the fans to pay money for a ticket to go to a game only to see Kawhi Leonard sitting and not playing for no reason? And how is it fair to the people that sign the players' checks that when the players sign the contract, less than a year and a half into the contract, or 2 years, the players all of a sudden throwing a fit, pouting, sitting games out because they want to get traded? It isn't. It isn't at all. And as a result of this, you can't make a deal with someone who isn't true to their word. It's just bad business. And players don't like being criticized over this because they want to have as much leverage as possible. But one person having all the leverage becomes abusive, right? And that's what the players have been doing when they're abusing the newfound powers that they found in player empowerment that was ushered in by LeBron James and the 1% of NBA players. So that LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, those guys. And it's gotten out of hand. It's gotten out of hand. They're abusing their power so much that the fans feel like they're getting cheated out of money. And the owners feel like, we can't even, what do we even do? You don't see this in other leagues. You don't see players in NHL sitting out games, throwing a fit, pouting to not play. You don't see that in the NFL. You don't see players sitting out games for no reason other than load management. You don't see that at all. Hockey is more physical than basketball. It's about the same amount of games. The season's about the same length. And they're playing the same amount of games. They're not doing the shenanigans that NBA players are doing currently. It's gotten out of hand. And it was all made possible because of LeBron. And it's one thing for a player to want to leave when their team doesn't do anything to support them, such as a case of Damian Lillard in Portland. He's just wasting away. His team is incompetent. They cannot surround him with talent. It's another when players are like James Harden, Kevin Durant, who've just had everything given to them by their organization, and they just decide to leave. That's just not professional. That's unprofessional. Don't sign a contract and you start pouting because conditions aren't in your favor anymore. It's unprofessional, and eventually the league's going to have to figure this out. They're going to fix it, and one of the ways they're going to fix this is the collective bargaining agreement. It's not going to be in their favor. But yeah, guys, those are just my thoughts on the current state of the NBA. If you like this kind of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and leave a like under this video. And until next time, kids.